Okay, this is going to be a quick video about how I have my kayak fitted out. In a previous video I did a review of my kayak, which is a Malibu Kayak's X Factor, and I've had it about a year and a half, and I've been working on getting it set up the way I want it. And I was just going to go over a little bit of what I've come up with so far. First of all, the first thing I did was put on an anchor trolley. Very important for fishing, because you can adjust where that anchor goes without having to crawl the front or back end of your kayak. So this particular one is a Hobie brand, and so far I've liked it. It's worked out all right. This one has a bungee incorporated into it to kind of keep it always taut, which so far has worked pretty good. So happy with that. Also, one of my first projects I did was I wanted to make a place to put a GPS and a sonar, and so I got working on this little contraption here. Malibu makes what they call the X-Wing, which is a similar setup, but with that they said I wouldn't have access to my hatch, or it would in conflict with that. So I really liked their idea, but I wanted something that I could make work for me. So I just said, okay, I have to build it myself. So this project turned out to be a lot more than I was hoping for, but I liked it in the end. It turned out good. But what I did was I started off with some wood and cut it down to the right size, and then I temporarily hot glued it in place and got it in the right shape, and then I overlaid it with fiberglass. And this part up here I made out of fiberglass sheets and epoxied it and fiberglassed it together, and it took a while and a lot of doing, but I got it done. But I'm really happy with it. It's got the rod holders, and I can adjust those when I'm trolling. Stick my rods going out the side. I've got access to the GPS and the sonar, and I've got a little sunshade area here to kind of keep the sun and the elements off of those, hopefully. And I tried to make it somewhat aerodynamic too, so it didn't catch too much wind. Got my cup holders. For some reason this kayak is awesome as it is. I really like it, but it did not come with any kind of cup holder, so this is my cup holder. And I also did another little feature. I figured while I was doing this, I'm gonna go all out, and I put some LED lights, incorporated those into each side, and I got my switches here to turn on the lights going off into the water. And then I've got one light on the bottom, if you can see it, that lights the cockpit. So I've got two switches, one for that light and the other one for the two that go down into the water, so that I can see what's going on at night, have a little help on that. And then I got a couple knobs here I can turn to run it forward or backward on the track system. I have to run it all the way forward if I'm going to do any serious paddling, so it doesn't interfere with paddling. But when I'm anchored off somewhere, I slide it back to me, so it's a little easier to reach the rod holders and that kind of thing. So it's worked pretty good. Adds a little weight to the kayak, but I think it's worth it. It's been really a good thing. And then I just recently added a little camera holder on the top. I just used PVC, 1-inch PVC fittings, and they wiggle together so tightly that you don't really have to worry about them. I just kind of wiggle it a little bit and it's in place, and then I can wiggle it and take it off. And so that's how I deal with camera mounts for the GoPro. And then moving on, in here I've got, this is the multi-use hatch, and at the moment I've got everything thrown in there. I tend to throw a lot of stuff in here. I do have the live well options set up, so I can use this as a live well also if I want to. But right now I've got my anchor, I've got extra anchor line, pliers, got the fish grip, my knife sheath. Another thing I started doing this last trip was I've noticed that I have a hard time cleaning off my sonar without getting a little sand or something on it and scratching it. So I got a water bottle with clean water bottle, so I can kind of get some of the sand off and then try to clean that off so I can get the grime off so I can see it better. Just a little idea I had. It seemed to work all right this last trip. Got a leash from a paddle. I did run an electrical on this. I just ran it. I was going to put a hole through the hull, but I said, no, I don't want to do that. So I just ran it underneath the hatch, in underneath like that. And then I've got the battery all the way back here in this compartment back here, and I've probably got overkill on the battery. It's pretty heavy, but it'll run my sonar and the live well. And I hadn't had a problem with it running out of juice or anything. Also, in this compartment back here, I got my fishing license in my dry box, put my wallet and my keys and like GoPro batteries, things that I really need to keep dry in there. I've also got my kayak safety kits, flares, first aid, all that good stuff, whistle. Very important to have that kind of thing as well. Got a little food thrown in here just in case. So that's my hatch that I put my stuff I don't need every day in, or all the time, but when I need it, I need it. So that's that hatch. Also carry my, got these at Harbor Freight, just some vice grips, that long vice grips that are really good for taking the hook out of a shark or something like that, where you don't want to get your hands anywhere near them. So that's worked pretty good too. Got my seat and my life jacket. I got my GoPro remote hang off there. Got a whistle in here, and then I also always carry on me my ship-to-shore radio. Very important to have that on you, and I keep that on my person with the life jacket. So that's a very important safety issue there. Then in here, I've got lots of room in this kayak to store stuff, so I'll store tackle boxes, got an extra rod, gaff, floats. Got my water gun to suck water out of there if I need to bail it, but fortunately I've not had a problem. I don't know if I've ever actually had to use that while I'm out in the water, because this kayak does a pretty good job of keeping water out, thankfully. So that takes care of the front half pretty good. On the camera mounts, I mentioned I use the 1-inch PVC pipe. I've got a couple options up here to where I can, on this, I can put one on top and look down, and I put this one on the side so I can pull this out and put the GoPro on there and then stick it down in the water and get some underwater shots with it in that other position. And that works pretty good. I've got some pretty good shots doing that. I did put spray foam inside these in order to make sure it floats, which actually causes a little bit of an issue when I'm trying to put underwater shots, because it's hard to get that thing to sink sometimes. It wants to come up to the surface. I got a side camera mount too that I made out of 1-inch PVC as well, and fittings. I did, in order to get the right angle, I did have to heat it up with my butane torch a little bit to kind of bend it and to get it just the right angle so that it's level, because I couldn't get that level effect with just the fittings. And again, I just kind of got the wiggle on PVC fittings, and that's just worked pretty good. And I can swing this forward and kind of mess with it and then just push it back and get hopefully some good video from the side here. And I put a little system in here so it can't come out. Like if I flip over in the surf or something, I'm not going to lose it. I don't want to lose the GoPro, that's for sure. And the last thing here is my cooler. When I got going on this project, I was really, it's hard to find a cooler that's the right size and shape. And since I was wanting to go offshore, I was hoping to catch some bigger fish, and I wanted something I could put a long, skinny fish in. So I couldn't find a cooler that shape, so I decided I'm going to do something I probably shouldn't have again. This project turned out to be way more than it ought to have been, but I decided to make my own cooler. So I bought, a Coleman cooler here, and I cut the bottom out of it and one end out of it, and I kind of made my own cooler. And so it's shorter than the original cooler, and it's longer. I cut one end out of it, and I used fiberglass for the outside of this thing and filled it with spray foam to make it nice and insulating. And I actually drilled holes in here because I noticed that the top of the cooler was, these cheapo coolers, the top's not even filled, it's just air in there. So I drilled some holes in it, and I put some spray foam in there too to help make, a lot more insulation, so that hopefully it'll make it through the day out on, in the sun. And then I had a hard time finding something to seal all this up, but I found some roof sealer stuff that I painted on there, and it's not real pretty, but so far I think it's held and it's worked well. And I incorporated into it some rod holders here, and a couple little things if I ever want to strap something on top, and I hold it down with this bungee right here. It helps keep it shut in case I flip over or the wind and that kind of thing. So I can put a pretty good size fish in there. I can't remember how long I figured, but it was at least 3 feet, maybe more, I could fit in there without having to carry a huge cooler on the back of this thing. And it's a little lower profile, so it doesn't catch as much wind again. At least that's the idea. So that is pretty much all the mods I've made on this thing. But so far it's worked well. All this stuff adds up on weight, and so it's a beast trying to paddle it out, unfortunately. My other kayak I had was like a little sports car, and this I kind of relate to being a big yellow school bus. Is kind of what it's like paddling it out there sometimes, it seems like, and I'm not a real big guy, so it takes some doing, but anyway, but it works, and I'm very happy with it, and I'm happy with the setup. I think I finally got it the way I want it, and I'm sure I'll make a few tweaks as I go, but I'm pretty happy with it the way it is. So hopefully that'll give you some ideas on some ways you might set your kayak up and have some fun offshore too. So thanks for watching.